The Nintendo Switch has been around for well over 7 years now, and over those past 7 years, the Nintendo Switch has grown to be one of the best selling consoles of all time, selling over 100 million consoles, which is just crazy. However, it's heavily rumoured that in 2025 we're gonna see the successor to the Nintendo Switch. However, if you can't wait, should you buy the Switch we have today in 2024, or should you wait until the Switch 2 comes out? Now, there are 3 different types of Nintendo Switches that you can buy today. You've got the original one that came back in 2017, which has the original screen, still can be connected to a TV, which also has the really weird kickstand on the back, which is not very good. But if you're looking for a cheaper experience with a Nintendo Switch, and you just mainly want to use it in docked mode, this one might be the option to go for. On the other hand, there's the Nintendo Switch Lite, which is entirely handheld only. Comes with a smaller screen, there's no detachable Joy-Cons, it's just a smaller handheld Switch. However, generally I do recommend that you steer away from the Switch Lite just because it is cheaper and you do get the same performance that you would on every other Switch, but the screen's really lacking. It's a small screen, some games are just not very nice to play on this small screen, and yet again, if you get stick drift on these controllers, you can't replace them. So my general recommendation is get the proper Switch OLED. Now, in terms of what makes the Switch OLED different from the original Switch, not only the screen is significantly better, there's smaller bezels on the Switch as well, so even though the physical body of the Switch is the same, you've got a bigger 7-inch screen, which does actually make it a lot easier to play these games on a bigger screen. And in addition to the bigger screen, you do have the OLED display, which is a night and day difference compared to the original LCD screen that we saw in the Switch from back in 2017, which is pretty poor, and it's hard to recommend buying that original Switch in 2024. However, unlike the name suggests, there actually are some more hidden features that you get with the Switch OLED model over the original one, which generally does make the experience a lot better. So one of the main differences, you get double the storage, so on the original Switch you only get 32GB, on the Switch OLED you've got 64, so I would definitely recommend still getting a microSD card, but you might be able to get 1 or 2 games installed digitally on the internal drive now. However, the original Switch you could basically only use cartridges, because there was just no internal storage really. Another great addition to the Switch OLED is an enhanced speaker system. However, even though I did have one of the original Switches, I don't remember exactly how it sounded, and the OLED Switch doesn't sound particularly great. It does sound tinny, and I definitely would recommend wearing headphones if you're going to be playing for a long time. However, apparently it is an improved speaker system compared to the original. And one of the most underrated improvements with the Switch OLED is the kickstand on the back of the console. If you are wanting to stand up the console in handheld mode, the original one had a tiny little kickstand which wasn't very stable and quite often broke as well for some people. Now with the Switch OLED, the entire back of the Switch is a kickstand, well half of it goes across the entire width of the Switch, which is much more stable, can be tilted at many different angles, almost all the way flat as well, which is great. Just a nice to see improvement. And another feature that came with the Switch OLED that isn't on the original one, which some people will really appreciate if they do use it, however the majority of people I can imagine probably will never use this feature, and that is the Ethernet port on the back of the dock, which can be really useful because the Wi-Fi on the Switch isn't bad, but it's not great either. Now in terms of what hasn't changed with the Switch OLED compared to the original, the performance is exactly the same, so whether you buy a Switch Lite, you buy the original Switch, or you buy a Switch OLED, performance is going to be identical. And building on top of that, battery life as well, very similar. You're not going to see much of an improvement really there either way. Now some of the reasons why I absolutely love the Nintendo Switch. Firstly, I genuinely like the third-party ports that are available on the Switch. For example, I recently bought FC24, it was 20 quid, and I thought, why not, let's try it. Now if you've never played EAFC or FIFA, the original ones on the Switch, if you didn't know already, the old FIFAs on Nintendo Switch were just legacy editions. In other words, it was the Xbox 360 version of FIFA, just ported to the Switch with new kits and new menus and new music. Apart from that, it was identical to every other FIFA. Now this became a problem because so many changes were happening with the new FIFAs on the newer consoles that the legacy edition started to become broken, and there were certain mechanics that were added to the game on newer consoles that weren't available in the legacy edition, and it just fell apart over the years. So the original one, FIFA 18 that came out on the Switch, wasn't great, but at least it worked and it was similar enough. However, when it got to FIFA 23, the whole thing was falling apart. Still, they had to make a change. They either had to ditch FIFA on the Switch entirely, or they had to somehow get the Frostbite version of FIFA on the Switch. And they did. Now it's not brilliant, it's 720p in handheld, sort of 1080p in docked mode. I think it's more like 900p. However, it entirely runs at 30 FPS. And if you've ever played FIFA or EAFC, you know how bad the menus are in terms of just not being very stable and not being very smooth. The Switch, it just amplifies that. So you might be playing at one moment and it feels okay, it's not going to be great, but it's playable. However, if the servers are busy or for whatever reason, sometimes the menus is just so laggy and unusable, it's just not great. However, to play FC24 on the go with the full Ultimate Team selection, all the latest modes available and the entire update of Frostbite, basically the entire PlayStation 4 version of FC24 on the Switch at a lower resolution, it's brilliant. And I'm sort of thinking of buying FC25 just on the Switch entirely so I can play handheld when I'm out and about. But I haven't quite made my decision yet, so we'll come back to that later. Other than FC24, the other ports that are available, Fortnite, Rocket League, Overwatch, Apex Legends, these are things that just weren't available when I first got a Switch back in 2017. However, seeing these come to the Switch, but it's incredibly impressive seeing these developers port these massive titles onto the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, they're only running at 30 FPS and the graphics are questionable, but it's a Switch at the end of the day. It's really underpowered. It's got like a 20th of the power of a PlayStation 5, so to see these games on the Switch at all, it's really impressive. And these third-party titles are even better when it's playing on games that have cross-progression. For example, if you want to play Rocket League or Fortnite on your PlayStation 5 while you're at home, and then when you're on the go, play on your Nintendo Switch and all your progress transfers over, that's brilliant. And I think that's where the third-party ports are going to shine, especially going onto the Switch 2 as well. However, I would never buy a Nintendo Switch to only play these games, because it speaks for itself. They don't run great compared to the PlayStation 5 or the Series X. So if you haven't got a console yet at all, and you're not too fussed about handheld, you would like to play handheld, but you're mainly going to play on a TV, for example, I would definitely say get a PS5 or a Series X first. However, if you've got either of those consoles and you're sort of a bit burnt out with those and you want something new, Nintendo Switch can be really, really good. Now, one of my favourite ports that I bought yesterday and I've been playing through on the Switch is the Portal Companion Collection. This is basically Portal 1 and Portal 2 ported to the Nintendo Switch, and it actually runs better than the original Xbox 360 version. It's a really good experience, and playing these games handheld on the Switch is really fun. And if you have got a Nintendo Switch already, I would recommend checking it out. It's £13.50 and you get Portal 1 and Portal 2 as a bundle on the Switch. And it runs so smoothly at 30 FPS as well. And now another really, really good feature that Nintendo have had added over the years, which many people will want to buy a Switch probably only for this feature, and that is the Nintendo Switch Online retro games. Now you can play Game Boy Advance games, you can play the Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, even the Sega Mega Drive. All these consoles are available, ready to go with just a subscription to Nintendo Switch Online, and it is such good value. If you don't want to play Nintendo 64 or Sega Mega Drive or Game Boy Advanced, you can buy the Nintendo Switch Online, the normal online subscription without the expansion pack, for like £17 for the year, which is ridiculous. However, if you want to get the full selection, you can either pay £35 through the Nintendo Switch store or $35, or if you go to cdkeys.com, you can get it for like 25 quid, and it's brilliant. And you get Nintendo 64 games, you also get the Mario Kart booster pack, which has loads more tracks, loads more characters. It's brilliant. And I think these retro games to play on the go are a lot of fun, and playing these games that I didn't grow up with but I know other people did, and just playing that and having that experience is brilliant. Whether you're handheld or you're playing on a massive TV, either way, it runs great and it's nice to play. Playing the original Super Mario Bros. On a 77-inch OLED just hits different. Now the next feature I'm going to talk about has nothing to do with gaming, and it has to be one of my favourite features and one of the main reasons I bought a Nintendo Switch, and that feature is YouTube on the Switch. Now if you have a quick look online and look for the cheapest OLED tablet, you're looking about £600 at least, and I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's definitely not £300 for a Nintendo Switch OLED. And if you're wanting something to watch YouTube, just, as something to watch on the go, a Nintendo Switch OLED genuinely is the cheapest OLED tablet you can actually buy, or at least brand new anyway. The YouTube app, which is the same as getting it on a PlayStation 5 or Xbox, runs brilliantly on the Switch. Watching videos on an OLED screen, even if it's a 7-inch small OLED screen, it looks brilliant. But Nintendo, please, with the Switch 2, add Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime Video. It would just make the Switch perfect. But But on the whole, I think, look, Switch OLED, it's getting old now. It's hard to recommend it, I'll be honest with you, because it's underpowered. It's really not something that you're going to want to use to play high intensive games. If you want that, buy a PS5, buy a Series X. But if you're wanting something for casual gaming, you want to take it on the go with you, you maybe want to watch YouTube, you want to play some retro games on it. And don't forget, the original third-party titles, the Zelda Breath of the Wild is still incredible in 2024. Playing Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, these exclusive titles that are on the Switch are so good, and if you've never played them before, I cannot recommend it enough. But yet again, the Switch 2 is literally less than a year away, so if you can hold out, absolutely wait. It's going to be incredibly likely that you're going to be able to play these titles backwards compatibility and at a higher resolution, probably 60 FPS as well. So if I was you, I'd definitely wait until the new one comes out. However, if you've got to scratch that handheld gaming itch and you don't want to go for one of the PC handhelds, then a Switch OLED is brilliant. If you enjoyed the video, do me a massive favour, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and let me know down below what consoles you've got, if you're thinking about buying a Nintendo Switch, or if you've had one already. And if you've got nothing to say, do me a bigger favour, drop a heart down below, and on that note, I will see you next time. Goodbye.